स्वास्थ्य पर है ध्यान लगाना।
अब नहीं है हिचकिचाना, मन के स्वास्थ्य पर है ध्यान लगाना।
मन की सेहत भी है जरूरी, काउंसलर से फिर क्यों दूरी।
मन की सेहत भी है जरूरी, काउंसलर से फिर क्यों दूरी।
चलो अब अपना फोन उठाओ, मनोदर्पण पर कॉल लगाओ। चलो अब अपना फोन उठाओ, मनोदर्पण पर कॉल लगाओ। मनोदर्पण के काउंसलर से परामर्श पाने के लिए डायल करें टोल फ्री नंबर 844-844-0632। नंबर एक बार फिर सुने, 844-844-0632.
Hello, Namaskar and very good afternoon to all the viewers connected with us on NCERT's live and interactive program of Manodarpan Paricharcha. I am Anu Gupta, your host for this session. Dear viewers, as you are aware, Manodarpan Paricharcha sessions are conducted under the initiative of Ministry of Education as a part of Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan to provide psychosocial support to students, teachers and parents all across the country. जी हाँ व्यूअर्स, ये एक बेहतरीन माध्यम है आपके मानसिक स्वास्थ्य से संबंधित कोई भी क्वेरीज हम तक पहुंचाने का और हमसे अपने सवालों के जवाब प्राप्त करने का। हमारे पैनल ऑफ एक्सपर्ट्स पूरी कोशिश करते हैं कि आपको आपके सवालों के जवाब दे पाएं। मैं आपको ये भी बताना चाहूँगी कि आप हमसे जुड़ गए हैं चैनल नंबर 6 और 11 PM eVidya के साथ। Apart from that, we are streaming live on our NCERT's official YouTube channel which goes by the name NCERT Official. इसके अलावा यदि आप हमारे इस प्रोग्राम के बारे में और जानकारी लेना चाहते हैं या गवर्नमेंट के इस इनिशिएटिव के बारे में और जानकारी प्राप्त करना चाहते हैं तो आप हमारी डेडिकेटेड वेबसाइट पर भी जा सकते हैं जिसका नाम है www.manodarpan.education.gov.in, जो कि अभी आप अपनी स्क्रीन पर भी देख पा रहे हैं। इस वेबसाइट पर लॉगिन कर आपको वो सभी जानकारियां और फ़ोन नंबर मिल पाएंगे जिनकी आपको तलाश है, जो आप ढूंढ रहे हैं, जो आपके सवालों के उत्तर भी दे पाएंगे। अब बिना देरी किए मैं आपको आज के टॉपिक से रूबरू कराना चाहूँगी और आज हम आपके लिए लेकर आए हैं टॉपिक, बड़ा ही इंटरेस्टिंग टॉपिक है जिसका नाम है डेवलपिंग साइंटिफिक टेम्पर अमंग यंग माइंड्स। जी हाँ, युवाओं में वैज्ञानिक सोच का विकास। ऑलराइट, सो यदि आप इस टॉपिक से संबंधित भी हमसे कुछ क्वेश्चंस पूछना चाहते हैं, आपके कोई क्वेरीज है तो आप फोन के माध्यम से भी हमसे जुड़ सकते हैं। प्लीज नोट डाउन आवर फोन नंबर। आवर फोन नंबर इज 8800-440-559 which is flashing on your screen. We also have our helpline number which is 844-844-0632. जी हाँ दर्शकों, आइए जानें अब अपने टॉपिक के बारे में। साइंटिफिक टेम्पर, जब हम इस शब्द को सुनते हैं तो ऐसा लगता है क्या ये सिर्फ हम इतनी सारी इंफॉर्मेशन से घिरे हुए हैं, इतने सारे ओपिनियन से घिरे हुए हैं। हमारे बच्चों के लिए बहुत ज़रूरी हो जाता है ये क्यूरियस एटीट्यूड डेवलप करना। और आज हम इसी विषय पर अपने पैनल ऑफ एक्सपर्ट्स के साथ प्रस्तुत हुए हैं व्यूअर्स, ताकि हम इस टॉपिक में और डीपली जा सकें और समझ सकें। तो बिना देरी किए आइए मैं आपको अपने पैनल ऑफ एक्सपर्ट्स से भी मिलाना चाहूँगी। लेट्स वेलकम आवर एक्सपर्ट्स वन बाय वन। We are joined today by Dr. P.H. Brajayanti Devi. Namaskar, ma'am. Ma'am is Associate Professor and Head DESM NERI Shillong.
Namaskar.
You're welcome in the session, ma'am.
Thank you.
We are also joined by Dr. Tulika Day. Ma'am is Associate Professor NERI Shillong. Namaskar, ma'am. You are welcome in the session.
Namaskar, and thank you for having me in this session.
Ji. We also have with us Dr. Rashmi Sharma. Ma'am is Associate Professor RIE Bhopal. Namaskar, ma'am. You're welcome in the session.
Namaskar.
Thank you so much. And lastly, but not the least, we have Dr. Arup Saha with us. Dr. Sir is Assistant Professor in RIE Bhubaneswar. Namaskar, sir. You're welcome in the session.
नमस्कार, सभी को मेरा नमस्कार।
जी, सो दर्शकों, अब आप हमारे पैनलिस्ट से मिल चुके हैं। मैंने आपको आज का टॉपिक भी बता दिया है। डू कीप ऑन सेंडिंग योर क्वेश्चंस, योर कमेंट्स, योर आंसर्स इन आवर लाइव चैट बॉक्स ऑल्सो। आई हैव ऑलरेडी टोल्ड यू आवर NCERT ऑफिशियल यूट्यूब चैनल एज वेल। आप अपने सभी सवाल हम तक पहुंचा सकते हैं और हमारे एक्सपर्ट्स का जो पैनल आपके सामने प्रस्तुत है वो जरूर आपके सवालों के जवाब देगा। मैं पहले सवाल को लेकर बढ़ती हूँ डॉक्टर तुलिका की तरफ। डॉक्टर तुलिका, मैम मैं आपसे जानना चाहूंगी कि हम साइंटिफिक टेम्पर से क्या समझते हैं? व्हाट इज द मीनिंग ऑफ साइंटिफिक टेम्पर? क्या ये सिर्फ साइंटिस्ट से संबंधित है? डॉक्टर तुलिका।
Well, let us first understand that scientific temper doesn't mean that it is only confined to the students who pursue science or someone who is a scientist. It is something which is the way of life. It is defined as something called open-mindedness. Okay, so this is something that defined as a open-minded temper. When I say open-minded temper, it is that to develop new light, new knowledge, new understanding, say new experiments, even when their results may not be favorable to what you have already thought of. It is not something like you have a preconceived notion, but it gives you flexibility to accept what from the findings that you have experimented. From there you can change your opinion. So it is an open-mindedness, it is an attitude towards life. Okay, it is not confined to the subject of science only.
Right.
So it is nothing but open-mindedness to accept newer ideas, new knowledge into the gamut of, or you can say it is a way in which life should be perceived. Okay, so having said that, the scientific temper actually is an attitude towards life of logical and rational thinking. Also, it is of open-mindedness, as I have said, critical thinking, objectivity, inquiry and questioning, scientific method, and evidence-based decision making. So these all makes scientific temper. So when we say scientific temper, it is not something that it is a new concept, but it has been there in our society for a long time. But when it has been originated is very difficult to say. But from the mid 19th century, it has been very widely used. But let us not delve into the history so much, but let us reflect on what in India when it became popular. We all know that the first Prime Minister of independent India was Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, and he in 1946, in his book Discovery of India, he gave up a perception of what is scientific temper, and he probably is the one who made scientific temper that very open to everyone to ponder on, and that is what has given that phrase to propagate this notion of scientific temper. And in the Discovery of India, what he said was, just now we could see in the screen, that what he said, that scientific temper points out the way along which man should travel. That means how we should travel in our life in this world. So it is the way in which we should conduct our life. It is the temper of a free man. So it is not that a student who pursues science only, but it is the temper of a free man who has the right to think freely. And we live in a scientific age, so we are told that, but there is little evidence of this temper in the people anywhere or even their leaders. This is what Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru has said. So what, through this quote of Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, I just want to urge everyone, all the viewers, that it is a way in which the life should be governed and how we should think scientifically, or not accept what we see at a glance. So we should be questioning that why this is. A small example, like We have been told since our childhood that sun rises in the east, sun sets in the west. Now, the scientific temper is that if a child has inquired into it, that whether really the sun rises in the east and sets in the west, whether the child has tried to investigate into it, has inquired, has observed this phenomenon that every morning either it is rising in the east and is setting in the west. So that kind of mentality we should develop. So this is what it talks about, that scientific temper. So this is what Jawaharlal Nehru wanted to say. So in other words, scientific temper is nothing but a scientific way of thinking, not accepting anything which is there in front of your eyes as you see it, to investigate into it and to be open to change. If you see that the results that when you are experimenting or inquiring or investigating into it, you find that the what you were observing, or you had the notion earlier that this is true, but it may change. So that flexibility should be there in one to accept that change. So that is scientific temper. And as I say, logical and rational thinking, scientific temper emphasizes the importance of using reason and evidence to form conclusions rather than relying on superstition in the society or any preconceived notion, not to follow anything on the basis of superstition or hearsay facts. Like, as you have mentioned in the beginning, that whether it is restricted to the people who pursue science or scientists alone. Let me say, even if I study science, I may not be a person who has a scientific temper. I may be very rigid in whatever comes to me, any observations that is made, but I am governed more by what is there in my mind already set. I'm not open to any changes. So it is not necessary that only if we study science that we become scientific temper is developed in us. So that is there. We should be open-minded. And as I say, open-minded, individuals with scientific temper are receptive of new ideas. So this is open-minded, and they consider different perspectives, even if that challenges their already existing knowledge or already existing perception. Okay. The third thing is that what I mentioned is critical thinking. The critical thinking is to analyze. I would like to give a small example. Like, बच्चा शायद देखता है हर आंगन में एक तुलसी का पौधा. क्या बच्चे ने कभी ये सोचा कि तुलसी का पौधा क्यों लगा? क्या यह पूजा करने के लिए ही है? क्यों लगाते हैं तुलसी के पौधा हर आंगन में? क्या जरूरी है? So that critically analyzing what is there in front of their eyes or any kind of information, analyzing an information carefully, learning to question what is there, questioning the assumptions is very important, and then form well-informed decisions can be taken. क्या तुलसी का पौधा लगाना जरूरी है? क्यों लगाते हैं? साइंटिफिक बेसिस क्या है उसका? क्या उसको पूजा करने के लिए लगाते हैं, किसी बड़े ने बोला इसलिए करते हैं, या कि उसके पीछे उसका साइंटिफिक बेसिस क्या है? आंगन में लगा के हम घर के चारों तरफ एयर्स को प्यूरिफाई करते हैं, वो है मेन बेसिस. So on the basis of that, the child can decide that whether we should do it or not do it, whether planting a tulsi plant is good or not. The fourth point that I would like to come to is the objectivity. Now, scientific temper, when we say, it should not be subjective, it should be objective. Look into both the sides, whether the cultural basis is correct or whether it has a scientific basis also. So to look into the things very objectively, not subjectively. So there should not be any personal biases or emotions when we consider anything that to be a body of knowledge. Then I think the fifth point is inquiry and questioning. The child should be able to question not only people around him or her, but should be questioning himself or herself. Often we hear a statement, again I would like to cite an example, that the sky is blue in color. But is the sky always blue in color? Has the child asked this question to himself or herself? When we are talking about developing scientific temper in children or in the young minds, have we thought of what, sorry for that, have we thought of that, is the sky always blue in color?
All right, it was really an interesting discussion which was happening. Dr. Tulika was telling us all about what is scientific temper. और मैम की बातों से मुझे बहुत ही क्लैरिटी हुई कि क्या है साइंटिफिक टेम्पर आखिरकार.
आसमान भी. तो क्या बच्चे ने इसको इंक्वायरी की? And the last is that evidence-based decision making. When the evidence is there, the child should be able to.
All right. So जब तुलिका मैम हमें बता रही थी साइंटिफिक टेम्पर के बारे में, तो उन्होंने दो चीज़ें उन्होंने बताई हमें कि साइंटिफिक टेम्पर ना केवल सोचने का तरीका है, इट्स नॉट ओनली वे ऑफ लाइफ बट ऑल्सो हैविंग एन ओपन माइंड सेट, हैविंग एन ग्रोथ माइंड सेट. मैम के एग्जाम्पल से मुझे अपना बचपन भी याद आ रहा था और मैं अपने आसपास के बच्चों को भी याद कर पा रही थी. हमारे बच्चे हमेशा क्यूरियोसिटी से भरे होते हैं, अगर ऐसा है तो ऐसा क्यों है. और मैम ने बहुत ही रेलेवेंट एग्जाम्पल से हमें ये भी समझाया कि हम हमेशा से फ्रॉम टाइम्स बायगॉन सुनते आ रहे हैं दैट सन राइजेज इन द ईस्ट. लेकिन क्या हमने जानने की कोशिश करी कि क्या ये ठीक भी बात है, हमें बताया जा रहा है. ऑफ कोर्स इट वाज अ साइंटिफिक फैक्ट दैट वी गॉट टू नो, बट डिड वी एवर ट्राई टू इंक्वायर. तो हम फिर से वापस चलते हैं साइंटिफिक टेम्पर की तरफ तुलिका मैम के साथ.
So when we think scientifically, it does not mean that we reject the cultural basis. I just wanted to highlight these, and that is why I took those examples, that it is not that I'm very scientific in my outlook, so I discard all the cultural bases that are there. But what is that scientific reason behind? What is the cultural basis also may have some scientific elements into it. That to see it, as I said, to see things objectively and not subjectively. So to see those things through, and the steps that I said, that the scientific, when I say scientific, it is that the rational thinking develops in the child, and through these efforts only, and the child can be able to understand that that your culture or the background has a lot to do with the scientific temper too. So this is all that I wanted to say in the first round of what the scientific temper is.
जी, इट वॉज रियली अ वंडरफुल एक्सप्लेनेशन. और मैं वापस अपने बचपन में भी पहुंच गई थी जब मैम बता रहे थे कि क्या हम कभी सोचते हैं जिन चीज़ों को हमें बता दिया जाता है और हम विश्वास कर लेते हैं. डू वी एवर ट्राई टू फाइंड द रीज़न वाई एनीथिंग इज हैपनिंग, वाई द स्काई इज ब्लू, वाई वी आर नॉट flying in the air, or why other planets are not falling on earth. Of course children are always with lot of questions. यहाँ पर एक सवाल मेरे दिमाग में भी उठ रहा था कि बच्चे हमेशा सवालों के साथ तो होते हैं, लेकिन एक साइंटिफिक टेम्पर होने का मतलब ये भी होता है कि आप उनके जवाब भी ढूंढें, आप इंक्वायर करें, ऑब्जर्व करें, क्रिटिकली थिंक करें और उसके बाद कंक्लूजन पर पहुँचें. ये सब मिलाकर हम साइंटिफिक टेम्परामेंट लेकर बनते हैं, डेवलप करते हैं. और ये केवल बच्चों तक ही सीमित नहीं है, ये बड़ों के लिए भी उतना ही कारगर है, उतना ही एप्लीकेबल है जितना कि बच्चों या हमारे किसी भी व्यूअर के लिए. सो वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट टॉपिक. I would request all the viewers to stay connected with us to know more about scientific temper. Going forward with our session, we have Dr. Arup with us and मैं Dr. Arup से जानना चाहूँगी. डॉक्टर अरूप, हम जान गए हैं कि साइंटिफिक टेम्पर क्या होता है, लेकिन मैं अब ये जानना चाहूँगी कि व्हाई इज इट इम्पोर्टेंट टू डेवलप अ साइंटिफिक टेम्पर. डॉक्टर अरूप.
Thank you for this question. I am really glad we are talking about this today because scientific temper is not just a topic in the science classroom. As Dr. Tulika has already pointed, it's a way of life and more importantly, a way of thinking that we need to nurture in our young mind or young generation. When I talk about scientific temper, we are not just referring to knowing scientific facts or scoring well in scientific objects. It goes much deeper than that. Scientific temper is about having a mindset, a way of thinking where we can ask questions, test whether, hear, and try to understand the why and how of things. It's the habit of being curious, of not accepting things just because someone said so, but wanting to know the reason behind it. Kids today are growing up in a world full of information and sometimes misinformation also. This kind of mindset is more important than ever. They are seeing things on social media, hearing things from friends, relatives, and even sometimes in schools or homes that may not always be rooted in logic or evidence. So developing a scientific temper is like giving them a filter through which they can process all this information wisely. Let me give you a very simple and relatable example. Imagine a child hears, don't eat a particular type of food on a certain day, and it's unlucky. So it's a very common thing in each and every society of India. Now, instead of getting scared or blindly following it, a child with a scientific temper will say, wait, why is that? What's the logic behind it? That question, that spark is the beginning of scientific temper. And it's not just about questioning. It's about thinking critically in everyday life. Suppose they see so many ads in the social media claiming a certain product can make you smarter or can make you taller. A child with scientific temper won't immediately believe it. They will wonder, where is the proof? Is there any research behind this? Could this just be a marketing trick? That's critical thinking. That's scientific temper in action. Now, this does not mean a child has to be rude or dismissive. Scientific temper also teaches humility. It helps us accept we might not know something and that it's okay to seek knowledge or admit when we are wrong. In fact, being open to learning even more from our mistakes is a key part of this attitude. It's also nurtures tolerance and empathy. When children grow up knowing it's okay to ask questions, it becomes easier for them to accept others who think differently. They don't jump to conclusion. They don't easily fall into bias or prejudice. This makes them more democratic in thinking, which is very much required in our democratic country and in a diverse country like India. That's a huge strength. Another important thing, scientific temper builds problem-solving skills. Whether it's a school project, a family issue, or something else, they will face as future professionals the ability to look at a problem objectively, gather evidence, analyze options, and make an informed decision. That's what makes someone truly capable. And the best part, it's not limited to science class. You can use this kind of thinking in history, like analyzing causes of events, or in literature, interpreting things and character motivations, even in sports or art, figuring out patterns, testing strategies. Also, scientific temper is about using logic, reason, and curiosity across all walks of life. Now, let's talk about why this is important for our society. Today's children will become tomorrow's decision makers, teachers, doctors, scientists, engineers, leaders, and parents. If we want a society that is rational, inclusive, progressive, and forward looking, we need to build that foundation now. A child who learns to question, verify, and reason today more likely to become an adult who solve real problems instead of blindly following the dogmas. In fact, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, one of the greatest thinkers and reformers of our country, included the development of scientific temper in our constitution itself. He believed that for true social reform, we need to be awakened minds, not just impose rules. So, to sum up, scientific temper means nurturing curiosity, courage to question, critical thinking, and openness to new ideas. It's not only about building better scientists, it's about building better human beings. And it all starts in childhood with how we talk to our children, what kind of questions we encourage, and how open we are to letting them think for themselves.
Ji, that was a wonderful explanation by Dr. Arup about why and why it is important to develop a scientific temper. सर ने बहुत ही बेहतरीन ढंग से हमें बताया कि साइंटिफिक टेम्पर डेवलप करना क्यों इम्पॉर्टेंट है. सर ने बताया कि आज के ज़माने में जब हमारे बच्चों के पास इन्फॉर्मेशन ही नहीं बल्कि मिस इन्फॉर्मेशन का भी भंडार है, साइंटिफिक टेम्पर हमारे लिए काम करता है फिल्टर की तरह, जहां बच्चे उसका यूज़ करके गलत और सही में अंतर बता सकते हैं. नॉट ओनली दैट, सर ने बहुत ही बढ़िया बात कहकर अपना डिस्कशन समाप्त किया दैट साइंटिफिक टेम्पर नॉट ओनली मेक्स गुड साइंटिस्ट्स बट बेटर ह्यूमन बींग्स. जब बच्चा साइंटिफिक टेम्पर कल्टीवेट करता है तो वो ज़्यादा एम्पैथेटिक होता है, ज़्यादा डेमोक्रेटिक होता है, औरों के विचारों को, औरों के पर्सपेक्टिव को एक्सेप्ट करता है, ओपन माइंडेड रहता है, और यदि वो पाता है कि मैं गलत हूँ तो उसको भी स्वीकारता है. आई थिंक हमारे सभी बच्चों को एनकरेज करना चाहिए साइंटिफिक टेम्पर डेवलप करने के लिए. साथ ही मैं अपने व्यूअर्स से भी रिक्वेस्ट करूंगी, जैसे कि डॉक्टर अरूप ने कुछ सुपरस्टिशंस के बारे में बताया, क्या आप भी कुछ ऐसे सुपरस्टिशन सुने हैं आपने, और किस तरह से क्या उसका आपने लॉजिक निकाला, रीजनिंग निकाली. जैसे सर ने हमें बताया कि कुछ लोग हमें बताते हैं कि हफ्ते के किसी दिन कुछ पर्टिकुलर टाइप का खाना नहीं खाना चाहिए, लेकिन क्या कारण है, क्या लॉजिक है उसके पीछे, तो हमें ये सोचना चाहिए. तो मैं व्यूअर्स से भी जानना चाहूँगी कि क्या आपने भी ऐसे कुछ सुपरस्टिशंस सुने हैं और उनके पीछे के रीजंस जानने की कोशिश की है. अब जब हम साइंटिफिक टेम्पर क्या है और क्यों इम्पॉर्टेंट है ये जान चुके हैं, तो आइए आगे बढ़ते हैं कि कैसे डेवलप करें हम साइंटिफिक टेम्पर को. और ये सवाल मैं पूछूंगी डॉक्टर रश्मि से. डॉक्टर रश्मि, हाउ कैन वी डेवलप साइंटिफिक टेम्पर?
Yes, it's a really wonderful question, and two of the speakers prior to me has already set the tune to answer this question. First of all, we talk about how to develop the scientific temperament among the students. We would like to answer the another question: that what is the role of the education to develop the scientific temperament among the students. And why this question comes first, why it is more important, because we see the primary objective of education is to prepare the children for the future, for the life. And as Dr. Arup has talked about just before, that scientific temper is not something which is important for the education of the child, rather it is very, very important for the whole life of the child. If child learns to have the scientific temper, if this scientific temperament is cultivated among the students at the early stage, for sure it is going to be quite beneficial for their professional lives, for their personal lives, and for the society and for the country as a whole. So what happens when we talk about the developing the scientific temperament among the students? The education plays very important role in that. And why? Because the majority of the children of our country are there in the schools. So, and they are being trained in the formal system of education, and if at all few are left, so that is not the situation at present in our country, but if at all few are there, they are not in the formal education system, the informally also they are being trained by some way or the other informal base. So here comes the important role of education. The education can try to cultivate the scientific temperament among the students as its basic objective of the education. As Dr. Arup was talking about, and Dr. Tulika also has mentioned somewhere in the 1946, this concept has came into the existence by discovery of India by Jawaharlal Nehru, the first Prime Minister. Later, as Arupji has talked about, in 1976, by the 42nd Amendment of our Constitution, this scientific temperament has been included in the Constitution as the fundamental duties. Out of 10 fundamental duties, the scientific temperament has become one of them. To cultivate the scientific temperament, the humanism and rational thinking is the fundamental duty of each one of us, the citizens of India, to cultivate it. So since everyone must try to cultivate it, but here comes the role of the education system, how it can be done. So there are some certain systems in our education in the country through that can be developed. The first thing comes here to schedule or to design the curriculum in such a manner which has the opportunities to develop the scientific temperament among students. As we have by now know what all are the characteristics of a person who is having the scientific temperament, or what is the importance of this scientific temperament for the children, for any citizen of the country. So here, if in the curriculum, in the syllabus, if some scope is there for development of scientific temperament, that would be always better. And of course, that is already there. When we look into the textbook of NCERT, let it be any textbook, from science, from social studies, even from the languages, mathematics, of course, we find the scopes are there for the many of the activities in the NCERT textbooks. These all are the small steps, and when they join together, they can be very beneficial in order to cultivate the scientific temperament among the students. There are many other ways through which the education can play very important role, and there should be some opportunities for the students to perform the activities, not only in the laboratories, the activities even in the classroom, activities and the experimentation whenever it is talked about. Generally, we do have the idea that these are the part of the science curriculum only, or they are connected with the science teaching only. But as Dr. Arup also has just talked about, it is not that the science students, those are studying the science, they only are concerned with the scientific temperament. Rather, it is connected with all the discipline, across the discipline, and there is no boundary for the person, because the scientific temperament, again I repeat, is not something that has to do something with the education only. This is a way of life. This is the something which will be helpful for everyone throughout the life in their personal career and personal life, in their career and in their professional life. So education institutions must have some provisions in their curriculum. The teachers also need to be trained the way they can help students to develop the scientific temperament among themselves. As Dr. Tulika has talked about, when we say the scientific temperament, there are many aspects those are related to it. The elements, when we talk about of the scientific temperament, we talk about critical thinking, open-mindedness, cause and effect relationship, the open to the new ideas, and not accepting the things without having the proper evidence behind it. So since when we talk about these all elements, there should be some or the other provisions in our curriculum, in our school activities for these all. For instance, we talk about the critical thinking. Critical thinking is something that not accepting the things as such they are being told to the students. Rather, the students need to question. They need to have the curiosity about some certain concepts. The students, when we talk about the critical thinking only, for instance, so what all things can be done in the classroom and by the teacher to develop the critical thinking among the students. When we talk about this very important element of the scientific thinking, scientific temperament, the critical thinking. So one needs to analyze the situation. When one need to analyze the situation, that means we need to provide the free hand to the students, that they should have their own way of thinking. And this own way of thinking will come when we'll provide a scope for them to when we put them into some difficult situations, when we put them some challenging situations, that means not providing the solutions, the ready-made solutions to the students. Rather, we just put them in some challenging situations, in some different situations to analyze the situation and come on some solution by their own, on their own. So if students are put in certain kind of situations where they are given freedom to question, whenever the teachers say something to the students, it's not that students need to obey it. If something is being said, as Dr. Tolika has took the example, why Tulsi ka paudha is always there in the angan, why the sun always rises from the east, why it sets in the west. So if these whys will come, then only we'll say the students are taking a step further towards the critical thinking. So the opportunity to ask the questions, the opportunities to analyze the situations by their own, the opportunities to hypothesizing some solutions or something based on some evidences, the collection of data in order to prove the hypothesization or the hypothesis those have been formed by the students, and the analysis of data, and after that interpretation. And interpretation, that means interlinking the different situations, interlinking the different evidences and trying to see the interrelatedness of different elements related to that particular situation. And after that, reaching to some conclusions, that is the inferences. And once the inferences, the child reaches to some inferences, the opportunity to communicate the inferences with the peers and with the other person. So if these are things being followed in the school, so these all together leads to just one particular aspect that we call as the critical thinking. So the education, when we say the cultivation of the critical thinking is the aspect which is related to the education and the teaching and learning processes in these schools, that in single thing requires so many steps, so much of the creativity at the part of the teacher, so much of the actions and the planning at the part of school and the teachers. So these all things together, and for this all, in order to acquire the object which is related to the scientific temperament, teacher really needs to work a lot. These are not the things those come automatically. These are not the things when the teacher, whenever she thinks she can simply provide the opportunity. For these all things, the teachers need to have the proper planning for these aspects. Teacher need to design all learning experiences in such a manner so that they provide the opportunity to the diverse class of the students. Since we all understand the classes are these days are quite diverse, the inclusive classrooms we do talk about. So it is not only the one way one way of providing opportunity would meet the requirement of all the students. So for that also the teachers need to be quite creative so that they can simply provide the opportunity to majority of the students, and that is how the education comes in play to develop the scientific temperament among the students. Let's talk about one situation. बहुत एक छोटा सा सिंपल सा एग्जांपल है. एक बगीचा है जहां से किसी बच्चे को आम ले जाने की परमिशन है कि आप चाहे जितने आम ले जा सकते हैं. अब पर एक बैग में आपके पास में 30 आम आ सकते हैं. तो और आप चाहे जितने बैग भर सकते हैं यहाँ से. तो एक बच्चा है जो सोचता है कि मैं यहाँ से 3 बैग भर के आम ले जाऊंगा और हर एक बैग में 30 आम आ सकते हैं मैक्सिमम. तो वो बच्चा 3 बैग में 30 करके 90 मैंगोज या 90 आम वहां से भर लेता है. वो जब एक और इसकी कंडीशन है कि जब वो बच्चा उन आम के बैग को लेके अपने घर तक जा रहा होगा, उस बीच में उसके पास में चेक पोस्ट आएंगे और हर चेक पोस्ट में हर बैग में से उसको 10 आम दे देने हैं. दैट इज कंपल्सरी. सो जब बच्चा वहां से आम लेके वापस निकलता है तो पहला चेक पोस्ट आता है, वहां से 3 आम दे देगा, 10 आम दे देगा हर तीनों ही बैग में से 10. दूसरा चेक पोस्ट आएगा तो फिर वो 10 आम दे देगा और तीसरा आएगा तो वापस से फिर 10 दे देगा. तो क्वेश्चन ये है कि वो बच्चा जब अपने घर वापस पहुंचता है, वो 3 बैग जो कि 30 आम से भरे हुए थे उनको लेके, तो वो घर पहुंचता है तो उसके पास में कितने आम लेके वो घर पहुंचेगा. तो यदि इसको आप एक सिंपल एट ए ग्लैंस देखते हैं, सो 3 बैग हैं, तीनों में 30 आम है, 3 चेक पोस्ट हैं, हर एक बैग में से 10 आम देना कंपलसरी है. तो ऐसे तो जब बच्चा अपने घर पहुंचेगा तो उसके पास में तो एक भी आम नहीं बचेगा. लेकिन कोई स्टूडेंट यदि इसको क्रिटिकली थिंक करता है, किसी और तरीके से सोचता है, तो इसका आंसर थोड़ा सा डिफरेंट हो सकता है. वो कैसे? जब वहां से वो 3 बैग भर के निकलता है, पहले चेक पोस्ट पे जाने के बाद में 10 30 आम उसको पहले चेक पोस्ट पे दे देने पड़ते हैं. तो अब उसके पास में 60 आम बच जाते हैं. वो एक बैग को वहीं छोड़ता है और बाकी के 30 आम 2 बैग में भर लेता है. तो अब जब वो नेक्स्ट चेक पोस्ट पे जाएगा, सो इंस्टेड ऑफ गिविंग the 30 mangoes, he will give the 20 mangoes only because he is carrying just 2 bags only. तो ये जो सोचने का तरीका है, ये जो differently सोचने का तरीका है, that also comes from the critical thinking and that also becomes the very pertinent part of the scientific temperament. कि आप किसी एक particular situation में किसी एक चीज को क्या आप traditional तरीके से या जिस तरीके से अभी तक वो बातें आपको बताई जाती रही हैं उस तरीके से सोचते हैं, या अपने सोचने के तरीके में आप कुछ नयापन लाते हैं, अपने सोचने के तरीके में कुछ इनोवेटिव एलिमेंट्स आप शामिल करते हैं. तो बहुत सारे एलिमेंट्स की अभी बात हुई है जहां पे हम कॉज इफेक्ट रिलेशनशिप की बात करते हैं. कॉज इफेक्ट रिलेशनशिप के लिए हम बहुत सारे आइडियाज हैं जब हम स्कूल्स में एक्टिविटीज बच्चों को करवाते हैं, लेकिन इसके साथ में ही किसी जगह पे एक एजुकेशन टूर के लिए ले जाना भी स्टूडेंट्स को के साइंटिफिक टेम्परामेंट को आगे बढ़ाने का काम करता है. किसी रिसोर्स पर्सन को या किसी कम्युनिटी के पर्सन को अपने स्कूल में इनवाइट करके और उससे बच्चों को रूबरू होने का मौका देना, उसके साथ बच्चों को बात करने का मौका देना भी साइंटिफिक टेम्परामेंट को बढ़ाने के लिए एक काम करता है. बिकॉज यदि आप किसी ऐसे व्यक्ति को, यदि आप मिट्टी से संबंधित कोई काम कर रहे हैं, डिफरेंट काइंड्स ऑफ सॉइल के बारे में यदि आप स्कूल में पढ़ा रहे हैं, एंड यू इनवाइट सम रिसोर्स पर्सन हु कम्स टू द इंस्टीट्यूट, टू द स्कूल एंड टॉक्स अबाउट द डिफरेंट kinds of soil, the person who is really working with the different kinds of soil and involved in the pot making processes. So for sure, the information which will be given by the person who is really working in this field would be providing the first hand information, quite ऑथेंटिक इंफॉर्मेशन. तो यदि आप बच्चों को ऐसी अपॉर्चुनिटीज भी प्रोवाइड कराते हैं जहां पे कि वो प्राइमरी सोर्सेज से इंफॉर्मेशन गैदर करते हैं, तो ये भी साइंटिफिक टेम्परामेंट को बढ़ाने की तरफ स्कूल का एक एजुकेशन का एक कदम होता है. आप बच्चों को यदि मोटिवेट करते हैं कि आपको जो इंफॉर्मेशन है उसके बहुत सारे सोर्सेस हैं, एज डॉक्टर अरूप ऑल्सो हैज वेरी राइटली मेंशन दैट this filter of scientific temperament is very much important in today's world, because there are multiple sources of information and we never know the information which is coming from the various sources to the child are authentic or not. So for this reason also, if you encourage your child, if you motivate your students to take the information always from the authentic sources, आप यदि उनको encourage करते हैं कि you should have the habit to refer the dictionary, you should have habit to refer the encyclopedias, that also is one step ahead towards inculcating the scientific temperament among students. So for this reason again, the schools may have these scientific corners in the classes. अपनी कक्षा में ही एक पीछे या किसी कॉर्नर को देख के किसी चारों कोने में से किसी एक कोने में भी एक छोटा सा एक कॉर्नर डेवलप किया जा सकता है, जहां पे कुछ इस तरह की एक्टिविटीज को करने के लिए बच्चों को मोटिवेशन दिया जाए, उनके लिए कुछ रीडिंग मटेरियल हो, उनको पढ़ने के लिए कुछ किताबें रखी जाएं, एक ऐसा बुलेटिन बोर्ड बनाया जा सकता है जिसके ऊपर की कुछ नई इंफॉर्मेशन, कुछ डिफरेंट इंफॉर्मेशन या कुछ ऐसी चीजें जब टीचर सोचते हैं या स्टूडेंट्स भी सोचते हैं कि जो सबको पढ़नी चाहिए और जो उनके लिए साइंटिफिक टेम्परामेंट को कल्टीवेट करने के लिए फायदेमंद हो सकते हैं, उनको भी लगाया जा सकता है. किसी एक बहुत बड़ी ट्रिप को प्लान करने की जरूरत नहीं है इस सब के लिए. आप यदि इस बच्चों को अपने स्कूल के गार्डन में ही ले जाके और यदि ऐसा मौका देते हैं जहां पे कि वो अपने आप से चीजों को एक्सप्लोर कर सके. फॉर इंस्टेंस एक बहुत ही छोटा सा एग्जांपल है, अभी हमने एक सॉइल के एग्जांपल की बात की, नाउ वी टॉक अबाउट डिफरेंट काइंड्स ऑफ लीव्स. लीफ में डिफरेंट तरह के वेनिशंस हैं, यदि आप उसकी भी बात करते हैं और क्लास में लाके आप विभिन्न तरह की पत्तियों को इस बच्चों को दिखाते हैं, या आप बच्चों को गार्डन में लेके जाते हैं, इस दोनों एक्टिविटीज में भी एक बहुत डिफरेंस है. और इन दोनों एक्टिविटीज को करके आप देखेंगे कि यदि आपने बच्चों को गार्डन में जाने का मौका दिया है तो आप उनको थोड़ी ज्यादा अपॉर्चुनिटीज प्रोवाइड करते हैं क्रिटिकल थिंकिंग के लिए, ओपन माइंडेडनेस के लिए, उनके कॉज एंड इफेक्ट रिलेशनशिप को और ज्यादा बेहतर तरीके से समझने के लिए, उनके सुपरस्टिशंस को दूर करने के लिए. ये जो एक और बात डॉक्टर तुलिका अभी कर रही थी कि सुपरस्टिशंस का ना होना भी हम साइंटिफिक टेम्परामेंट की तरफ बढ़ने का एक कदम है. तो ये सुपरस्टिशंस, ये अंधविश्वास बच्चों में कब नहीं होंगे? ये नहीं होंगे जबकि हम उनमें हर बात के लिए क्वेश्चन करने की प्रवृत्ति को डेवलप करते हैं. अभी का सिनेरियो यदि देखा जाए तो चाहे पेरेंट्स हो या स्कूल में टीचर्स हो, उन बच्चों से थोड़ा सा परेशान हो जाते हैं जो बहुत ज्यादा क्वेश्चंस पूछते हैं. यदि बच्चे बार बार प्रश्न करते हैं तो कहा जाता है कि तुम बहुत ज्यादा प्रश्न करते हो, थोड़ी देर चुप रहो. तो ये जाने अनजाने जब शिक्षक का ये कहना कि तुम बहुत ज्यादा प्रश्न करते हो, इतने प्रश्न मत पूछा करो, कहीं ना कहीं हम अनजाने में बच्चे की साइंटिफिक टेम्परामेंट को किल करने का काम करते हैं. यदि पेरेंट्स बच्चों को प्रश्न करने के लिए रोकते हैं, क्योंकि स्वभाव से ही बच्चे बहुत जिज्ञासु प्रवृत्ति के होते हैं और हर चीज को देख के उनके मन में प्रश्नों का आना बहुत स्वाभाविक है, तो यदि हम बच्चों को सिर्फ प्रश्न करने का मौका भी देते हैं, चाहे वो कक्षाओं में हो चाहे वो हमारे घर परिवार में हो, तो भी हम बच्चे को साइंटिफिक टेम्परामेंट को कल्टीवेट करने की तरफ एक कदम उठाते हैं. यदि हम उनको सिचुएशन को एनालाइज करने का मौका देते हैं। यदि हम उनको रेडीमेड सॉल्यूशन ना देते हुए ऐसी सिचुएशन में डालते हैं जहां पे कि उनको अपने छोटे मोटे जो उनकी अभी छोटी उम्र तक के अनुभव हैं उनके आधार पे और अपनी समझ के आधार पे कुछ डिसीजन मेकिंग करनी हो, क्योंकि साइंटिफिक टेम्परामेंट की जब हम बात करते हैं सो डिसीजन मेकिंग एक और बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट एलिमेंट इसमें है कि डिसीजन मेकिंग, बट दैट शुड बी इन्फॉर्म्ड डिसीजन मेकिंग। The decision making, one kind of decision making may be when the child has not thought of the different aspect of that particular problem, rather just reaches to any conclusion and makes a decision. But there's another way of taking the decisions when all the pros and cons has been taken into consideration and the child has thought about all the related aspects of that particular situation and on the having some facts related to that particular situation, the child is taking decision. Then in that sense, it can be said the child is taking informed decision, and this taking informed decision is also very important element which is related to the scientific temperament. So what happens, this situation now in society also we find that parents are always overprotective towards the children. वो बच्चों को हमेशा ही पैम्पर तो करते ही हैं, साथ में साथ प्रोटेक्शन भी बहुत ज्यादा देना चाहते हैं। बट यहाँ पे एक बहुत जरूरी बात है, चाहे वो टीचर्स के लिए हो या पेरेंट्स के लिए हो, वो बच्चों को एक कैलकुलेटिव रिस्क वाली सिचुएशन में डालने के लिए अपॉर्चुनिटीज क्रिएट करें, क्योंकि जब तक आप इस बच्चों को ऐसे किसी सिचुएशन में नहीं डालते हैं जहां पे उनके माइंड के लिए उनके लिए कुछ चैलेंजेस क्रिएट होते हैं, जहां पे उनके लिए कुछ सिचुएशंस डिफिकल्ट होती हैं, तो वो उनको ये एलिमेंट्स जो साइंटिफिक टेम्परामेंट से जुड़े हुए हैं उनको प्रैक्टिस करने के लिए अपॉर्चुनिटीज नहीं मिलती हैं। तो एजुकेशन यहाँ पे भी बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट रोल प्ले करते हैं। हमारे स्कूल में जितनी भी सारी एक्टिविटीज हैं वो सारी एक्टिविटीज डायरेक्टली और इनडायरेक्टली स्टूडेंट्स के साइंटिफिक टेम्परामेंट को डेवलप करती ही है। पर यहाँ पे आवश्यकता है कि हम
डॉक्टर रश्मि, मैं आपको रोकना चाहूंगी समय को देखते हुए। थैंक यू सो मच फॉर वंडरफुल रिस्पॉन्स ऑन द इम्पोर्टेंस एंड हाउ टू डेवलप साइंटिफिक टेम्पर अमंग चिल्ड्रन। डॉक्टर रश्मि ने हमें बताया कि स्कूल और टीचर्स कितना अहम भूमिका निभाते हैं हमारे बच्चों के साइंटिफिक टेम्पर को डेवलप करने के लिए। क्लासरूम एक्टिविटीज़ या स्कूल प्रीमाइसेस में की गई कोई भी एक्टिविटीज़ छोटी से छोटी, चाहे वो सॉइल से बच्चों का इंट्रोडक्शन कराना हो या पत्तियों से रूबरू कराना हो, यदि हम इस तरीके की एक्टिविटीज़ में बच्चों को एंगेज करते हैं तो डेफिनेटली हमारे बच्चे क्यूरियस होते हैं, सवाल पूछते हैं, और जैसा कि हमारे सभी एक्सपर्ट्स अभी तक बता रहे हैं वो 21st सेंचुरी स्किल्स डेवलप करते हैं, जो कि हैं प्रॉब्लम सॉल्विंग, क्रिटिकल थिंकिंग, कोलैबोरेशन। ये सारी स्किल्स जो आज के समय में हमारे बच्चों में ज़रूर होनी चाहिए, वो डेवलप होती है। अब हम आगे बढ़ते हैं और मैं डॉक्टर ब्रजयंती से पूछना चाहूँगी। डॉक्टर ब्रजयंती, हमारे पेरेंट्स का क्या रोल रहता है साइंटिफिक टेम्पर डेवलप करने में? डॉक्टर ब्रजयंती।
Thank you for the question. So, scientific temper, as we three speakers have said about the scientific temper. So, scientific temper, one of the main characteristic is like curiosity. Okay, curiosity is we understand why the word curiosity, the wanting to know more about a person, about a thing, about a situation, about a phenomenon, and about a situation whatever surrounds us. See, this is the feeling of a person wanting to know more about these things. So now we are talking about how to develop this scientific temper. So to develop scientific temper, they have to have an opportunity. So when these characteristics of scientific temper is the curiosity. So to develop the scientific temper, we have to fulfill the curiosity. So before fulfilling the curiosity, again, we have to have a scope for wanting to know more. So we have to provide, as a parents, as Dr. Rashmi said about how to develop this scientific temper in the school through education, and the role of teachers is said. And like other stakeholders, parents also play a great role in fostering or nurturing the scientific temper, because what what we have all have been talking about is not a different from the normal life, the daily life. So daily life, where the children spend, the most of the time, also have a large scope. So how to fulfill the curiosity means we have to provide a scope for questioning, and we have to answer the questions. So to provide the questioning, as I said, curiosity is to know, wanting to know more about the thing, about the person, about the situation, phenomenon. So these things children have, we have to expose the children to these things, then only they will have a, the feeling of wanting to know more about it. So for this, we have to, we let them, let them have this experience first. So to have the experience of question and where from the question comes. So for that, we have to provide them, we have to arouse them interest, and this can be done by providing some, some media. Some media means some objects, maybe books, maybe it may be book, and maybe objects, and maybe any activity doing at home. So we have to make them aware, make them exposed. We have to make them to see those things. And we can do these questions by narrating stories also. The many stories maybe there, like simple stories, and we have to scientific stories, non-scientific stories. These stories which have to be narrated, the stories to the children, so that where from they can come up with some questions. And we have to have an exposure to see around. Okay, the surroundings, when they see the surroundings, they may be familiar with the happenings, the situation, the phenomenon. So like we can take them to the Srini also mentioned about the garden. So we can take them, we should make a habit of taking them to the nearby places, maybe small forest, maybe neighbor's house, maybe nearby garden, maybe simple my own homestead for the kitchen garden also we can take them. So how can, suppose example, in the we can involve the children in the household chores also, household works, so that they will have a scope for questioning. Suppose example, I'm giving one very small example. We always cook the ghugni or chana, something like the sole at home. So if we involve the children will be aware about where we keep the gram, where we keep the dry mortar. But when they found it in the garden, when we put the dry seeds in the garden, after few days start germinating, sprouting. Then even if we keep the dry seeds in the kitchen, in the container for 1 month, 2 months or so, it remains the same. So from these things, children may wanted to know why when we keep the seed outside, so why it is becoming, start growing. And not only that, in the garden, when we take them, the growth pattern of the plants, different types of plants, I will give this in analysis part. So I'm just giving this. We should have given exposure to observe this around the world, around them, where from they can raise where from they can come up with the questions. And since scientific temper, one of the characteristics is the curiosity, and another characteristic is the cause and the effect. Okay, in the cause and the effect also, just now I give example like that. So why cause and effect? I can give another example here. Children, when we take the children to the surroundings and the market also, we can take them, and the wherever, this is a way of life. Our speakers have said very correctly. This is not only for the science. So through all the walks of life, we can involve the children, so that when we can take to the market, we can take to the the picnic spots, we can take to the excursion. So they will have to have an exposure for this, and from there they can understand the patterns also. Like suppose in the market, in particular, say May and June month, then the vegetables available in the market, maybe of the vegetable sellers, they might be keeping the one type of 3-4 types of vegetables only available that time. And if they go in the winter, then that type of vegetable again may be changed. So this type of questions, children may come with this type of question. They may not come also. When we provide these things, then we are giving opportunity for them to come with the questions. And when the question comes, suppose then for the market, why this particular vegetable is not getting now, only this one, 3-4 days I'm going the market, why only these vegetables are getting, why not mango in the season? Like that we can explain. Because all the type of plants doesn't grow in the same season, then cause and effect means for a particular plant, for a particular vegetable, it needs particular temperature, particular rainfall, and it doesn't happen all through the same. Like this, some of the examples I'm just giving. And the story, the telling also, sometimes children are very interested and they are happy when we narrate the story. So some stories like the different different communities, we have different type of stories. And there is one story, I pick up one example only. So there was a stepmother, and the girl, the stepmother wanted to torture the girl, and she used to tell the girl, you go and bring this grapes this time. When the grape doesn't grow in the nearby garden, then she will send the girl to the garden. Then she cannot come. She will go and cry in the garden in the forest. And then again the mother-in-law, again the stepmother will tell. Next day she will tell, you go and bring mango. You go and bring. Which is off-season things. And then this story tells about when the girl goes and cry in the forest every day, 7-6 days continuously. Then the season, we believe 7 seasons. So this is story of folktale only. Then 7 seasons feel bad about the girl, and they came, and all the fruits available in all the 7 seasons, the 7 seasons converted into a human being, and they brought all the fruits in the day. Then she bring all the fruits and she give to the mother. Right? So from this what happens, so the fruits are season bound, and in all the seasons, all the things are not, available like that. Few of the, like that, parents should do these things, because storytelling is good, and exposure to them about happenings, so that the questions cannot come from the vacuum. So questions, ask provision for the questions, opportunity for the questioning should be provided to the children. And critical thinking, we said, scientific temper characteristics. One of the characteristics of scientific temper is the critical thinking. Then everyone already said, so this, since it's the last question, so I may, some of the things are overlapping, and I may be repeat also, not exactly, but the concept will be within this only. So critical thinking is not saying yes to everything what you see, what others says. I also said very nicely about the critical thinking. So we have to give scope for this critical thinking, because critical thinking, we cannot teach them this is the critical thinking, and the critical thinking has to come from the person, because he or she has to like to know why it is so. Okay, and is there other alternative? Is there alternative other than this? Okay, can I look on with another view? These things are the part of critical thinking. So to have these thinkings, these feelings in the mind of the child, we have to give scope for that as a parents. So here actually pro-science homes. Okay, the pro-science home means not only the educated literature like that. It is not like that. But parents should have logical thinking, and parents having logical thinking should try to, give some opportunity so that children will start thinking logically. And so here, Rashmi also gave one example. So we have to, the parents, we have to use the reading time for guiding about this critical thinking, how the children are reading the book, how are they taking the facts, and how are they taking the concepts, and that they are just getting as it is, or they are understanding, or they are analyzing or not. Those things we can provide this help and the guide to the children. So one example, I'm telling critical thinking, it is mathematical, or mathematics is little abstract. So sometimes we have to think logically. So logical thinking, so Rashmi also said, so I also, since I have kept this as one of my, in this talk, so I'll just repeat it. There's one riddles, okay, because this analysis can be done in the form of riddles. In my locality, in my community, we use many riddles of different types, maybe mathematics, maybe science, maybe environmental science. So we use many riddles. so that the children will, use their critical thinking joyfully and without much pressure, without thinking that it is a book like that. Parents in the reading time, or when the mother, especially when she works, when she does some work, and when the children are reading something, and depending on the subject, parents also can help. So one example is that for the mathematical operations like plus minus and the plus minus multiplication division, like that also we have riddles. So one I will not say what, one only I will say where the plus minus all the mathematical operations involved. So the riddle goes like this. So we have to find it out. So okay, this was actually I will tell you later on. So we have to find out the answer. The riddle is like that. One girl came to the temple to offer some flowers to worship the god, to offer something to the temple. So there was 3 temples, and she brought some flowers, some number of flowers of champa flowers, and the condition is that she has to offer the same number of flowers in all the temples, and that she should go without carrying any flower. And this is the first condition. Another condition is that before offering the champa flower to the temple, she has to dip the flower into the pond, because all the temples has one pond. So the flower in the basket has to be dipped in the pond, and when she dips the flower in the pond, the flower will become double. Okay, this is the second condition. So how many flowers the girl brought and how many flowers she offered? This is this type of questions. So I think they can use for thinking.
Yes.
Then.
So I will let our viewers answer this riddle which was asked by Dr. Brajayanti. That was Dr. Brajayanti telling us about the role of parents, how they can cultivate the habit of scientific temper. Ma'am very beautifully told us that storytelling and riddles can be used to develop scientific temper in their children, and most importantly a safe space to ask questions. जब बच्चे अपने आप को सुरक्षित महसूस करते हैं सवाल पूछने में, जब उन्हें रोका नहीं जाता सवाल पूछने से, तब ही शुरुआत होती है साइंटिफिक टेम्पर डेवलप होने की. आइए चलते हैं आगे अपने सत्र की तरफ. मैं डॉक्टर तुलिका रे से पूछना चाहूँगी, डॉक्टर तुलिका डे, व्हाट इज द इन्फ्लुएंस ऑफ द एजुकेशन सिस्टम in fostering the scientific temper in young minds, and how the NCERT textbooks help in the endeavor? Dr. Tulika.
Thank you. A very nice question indeed. See, when we talk about the education system or the whole purpose of education, then the purpose of education is to replace the open mind, empty mind with an open one. Okay, so what is that? When I say an empty mind with an open one, it means that when a child is coming to the comes to this world, the child comes with an empty mind, isn't it? So the informations or the experiences that I added to the child's life brings the whole world of knowledge into the child's life, isn't it? So as the child grows, the child keeps on and on adding to these information and constructing his or her knowledge from these set of informations by analyzing these informations and synthesizing the informations that the child the informations that comes in the child's life. So, and this open mind following humanism above all, and that is the ultimate aim of education. Okay, an open mind following humanism above all, and that is the ultimate aim of education. An ultimate aim of education, when I say it should make an individual capable of taking judicious judicious decisions and develop rational thinking by using objective approach to the to understand the whole world around him or her based on the evidences. So who is going to provide this? It is the education that is going to provide it. So we have two basic aims of education, and this, it is essential that our education in the country should have these two cardinal aims. And what are these? Firstly, the education should foster rationality. It should allow the child to think rationally, and feeling of self-respect. I should develop that feeling of self-respect in me. And secondly, it should be conducive to lead a better life. So this is the whole purpose of education that we have. And this education, as we have all talked about, all the panelists have talked about how this can be developed in the children. And so what I find that first it is that we are talking about nurturing this scientific temper in the minds of the young children, young minds. But I think it is very important to understand for every individual that we are the role models, be it teachers, be it parents. What you preach, you should practice. So if I am preaching scientific temper so much into the child's mind, am I also, I need to introspect, am I following a life or leading a life of which is scientific, which is where I show that scientific temper in my ways in which I carry my life. If I say that you should have a scientific temper, you should be evidence based, your decisions should be evidence based. I go out of the classroom and I see a cat crossing my way and I turn back and sit back in my chair. No, the cat has crossed my way, and so I will not move forward. The child will be understanding that what I preach, I do not practice. So the child will not be motivated to inquire. It is what the hearsay things, the superstitions, which will take over. So here I want to say that the education system or the knowledge can bring about miracles in the life of the child. So lead a life where you are role model, and the role modeled parents and teachers can bring or instill that attitude of scientific or values of scientific temper into the mind of each child. And as I say, teachers, the textbooks also play a very important role in developing scientific temper. Not to talk of all textbooks, but confining myself into the textbooks of NCERT. If you see, it is not that only science books we see, but across the subjects, across the disciplines, if you see, the activities so designed have so much of room for or opportunities for the teacher to instill this scientific temper into the minds of the children. See the designed activities, be it in the world around us, our wondrous world, be it in the science book, be it in the mathematics book. All the panelists have given some examples from the different subjects, be it in history, geography, political science, or economics. Across the subjects, you will see that there have been activities given, and those were some of the activities were also given in the slides. If that can be presented, I would love to show. I have purposely not taken from science book, but from the world around us I have taken, so that one can see that how critical thinking can be instilled into the minds of the children from there. If the technicians can show, it would be good. Otherwise, I can just go ahead. That the textbook can foster scientific temper. Yes, nice one. It is on the water that it is written. If you can see on the screen, do you think it will rain again today or tomorrow? Why do you think so? So, triggering that critical thinking, that looking outside on the sky, can the child say that what kind of a situation arises before the rain comes? Whether looking at the color of the sky, the child is able to interpret, or the child is able to infer. Looking at the clouds, is the child able to infer? Triggering this kind of, or the teacher may help. Do you think the clouds say something to us that it is going to rain? Do the sky, the color of the sky, tell us something? So this kind of, do you think it is going to rain? So triggering such kind of critical thinking into the brain of the child. Did it rain only in your area or in other nearby places as well? Sometimes you feel a cold breeze, but there is no rain. So how is the child going to interpret? So the teacher says, make a guess, then ask and find out. So the child guesswork. It is here, the child is encouraged to make a guesswork. And then ask and find out for yourself what it is. So looking for evidences, coming to a conclusion based on the findings. So not jumping into some preconceived notion that there will be rain or there will not be rain, or there can be very windy situations. So all this. Then also the creative pursuit, the creative expression is given so much of scope. Find some songs about the rain or make up one in your language or any other. I think it has become blurred. Sing some songs about the rain. So these are some of the activities that are designed in the book so that the curiosity of the child to know about his or her surroundings, the world around, and from there the child can make inferences. So the text plays a very important role, and sometimes it is seen that the teachers ignore these activities that are there in the book, thinking these are wastage of time and the syllabus needs to be covered. But they are very important to develop scientific temper in the child. Take a look into another one. Step for a moment and think. Water comes down to the earth as rain. It slowly fills up our many sources, streams, rivers, ponds, lakes, wells, groundwater, etc. From these sources, we bring water to our homes. Then we store it in many ways. We use it in many ways. What happens to the water after it is used? The water comes from where and where does it go? So the whole cycle, the child is not talked about the hydrologic cycle or anything. The child has been given this opportunity to think. The water has come, then it comes to your house, you use it, then where does it go? The whole journey, the child is allowed to, given an opportunity to think about it. So this is how the textbook provides opportunities to the teacher as well as the student to develop this scientific temper. Okay, so there are innumerable examples in all the textbooks. The teachers can very well look into it and look for themselves and also develop scientific temper in the child's mind through this.
Yes.
So this
Ji.
is what I wanted to say
Ji.
in this discussion. Yes.
Right. So that was
So it is
Dr.
an
Tulika
inquiry-based approach.
telling us about how our NCERT textbooks help us in creating and nurturing the scientific temper in our students. Very important things ma'am told us, and a very subtle message also given by ma'am to all the teachers out there not to skip the activities given in the NCERT books, since these are designed specially keeping in mind the aims of education for our children. Another thing ma'am also said that whatever we say, we should also practice. And ma'am explained it by giving some very good examples, like when a cat crosses our path or when somebody sneezes and we stop and we do not go out of the home. So do practice whatever you are preaching, then only you can be a role model to your students or to your children. तो दर्शकों, अब हमने जान लिया है कि क्या है साइंटिफिक टेम्पर, क्यों इम्पॉर्टेंट है साइंटिफिक टेम्पर पेरेंट्स और अदर जो हमारी एजेंसीज हैं, सोसाइटी की एजेंसीज किस तरह से हेल्प करती हैं साइंटिफिक टेम्पर को डेवलप करने में। लास्टली हम जानते हैं डॉक्टर अरूप से क्या ऐसी मुश्किलें आती हैं, क्या ऐसी प्रॉब्लम्स आती हैं, चैलेंजेस आते हैं एजुकेटर्स को साइंटिफिक एटीट्यूड डेवलप करने में, साइंटिफिक टेम्परामेंट डेवलप करने में, और क्या इनिशिएटिव्स भारतवर्ष में लिए गए हैं प्रमोट करने के लिए साइंटिफिक टेम्पर को। मैं डॉक्टर अरूप से अनुरोध करूंगी, हमारी समय की सीमा जल्दी ही खत्म होने वाली है, तो हमें जल्दी जल्दी अपना एक्सपीरियंस शेयर करें डॉक्टर अरूप।
Yes, ma'am. After discussing a lot of things about the role of different stakeholders to develop scientific temper, now this is a very pertinent question that what are the challenges we may face to develop the scientific temper. When we talk about the developing scientific temper, educators play a key role. But let's be honest, it's not always easy. There are several challenges teachers and educators especially face while trying to nurture scientific temper among young minds. It would be very clear through this story. Let me begin with a true story about Acharya Prafulla Chandra Rai, a great Indian scientist and teacher. Once in his classroom, he explained to his students how eclipses are natural astronomical events and how there's no need to fear or follow unscientific rituals during an eclipse. The students listened sincerely and even nodded with an agreement. But later, when the eclipse occurred, many of them indoors still followed old customs, and they stayed indoors, avoid food, or even took a bath afterward. This story shows us something very important. Changing mindset takes time. But then the question arises, how much time is enough? This incident happened over 100 years ago, and yet even today, many of our fellow citizens still follow the same practices, often without questioning why. So this is only one example. Several examples we may give. One big challenge is that many children grow up in environments where blind beliefs and superstitions are deeply rooted. These beliefs are often passed down through generations. So even if a teacher explains something with logic and science, children may go home and hear the opposite. Naturally, this creates confusion. Another challenge is the exam-oriented education system. In many schools, the focus is still on completing the syllabus, preparing for test. So we have to allow the explore, experiment, and ask questions freely, not when they just memorize an answer.
डॉक्टर अरूप, मैं यहाँ पर आपको बताना चाहूंगी कि हमारे पास समय बहुत ही कम है, और मैं इनिशिएटिव्स के बारे में आपसे जानना चाहूंगी कि क्या भारतवर्ष में इनिशिएटिव लिए गए हैं। आप फटाफट हमें जल्दी से ब्रीफ में बता दें कि भारतवर्ष में क्या इनिशिएटिव लिए गए हैं साइंटिफिक टेम्पर को डेवलप करने के लिए।
So definitely India has a strong legacy when it comes to promoting scientific thinking. As already I have mentioned, and Dr. Rosmi also mentioned, that in the Article 51A of our Constitution, which says it's the duty of every citizen. Also, over the years, several initiatives both by the government and other organizations have aimed to make it, just like to celebrate the National Science Day on 28th February every year to mark the discovery of the Raman effect by Sir C.V. Raman. It encourages students to take part in science fair, model exhibition, and discussion. Also, Vigyan Proshar and NCERT have been producing science programs, books, and activities to spark curiosity among school children. NCERT conducts science exhibition every year throughout the country, and through these exhibitions, NCERT wants to develop scientific temper among the young minds. Programs like Inspire motivate young minds to pursue science through camps, award, and fellowship. Science museum, planetariums, and mobile science vans. These are the different initiatives of our government state government as well as the government of India go to different corners of the country to provide hands-on science experience, especially in rural areas.
जी
Platforms like this Paricharcha, School Innovation Ambassador Program, and Otol Labs under Niti Aayog's Otol Innovative Missions are empowering students and teachers to innovate and think scientifically.
जी
Apart from that,
जी मैं यहाँ
lastly,
पर अरूप सर से धन्यवाद कहना चाहूँगी। हमारी समय की सीमा समाप्त होने वाली है। Although the discussion is really very interesting and sir was telling us about all the initiatives our government, our schools and our society have taken to take scientific temperament forward. I'm sure हमारे दर्शकों को ये सत्र बहुत पसंद आया होगा। मेरा बहुत ही ज्ञानवर्धन हुआ है इस पूरे सत्र में हमारे एक्सपर्ट्स के साथ। और आइए दर्शकों हम मिलकर अपने एक्सपर्ट्स को धन्यवाद दें। मैं धन्यवाद करना चाहूँगी डॉक्टर ब्रजयंती देवी जी का। मैम थैंक यू सो मच फॉर बीइंग अ पार्ट ऑफ दिस सेशन। डॉक्टर तुलिका जी का, डॉक्टर रश्मि जी का एंड डॉक्टर अरूप साहा सर का बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद सभी एक्सपर्ट्स का कि आप हमारे सत्र का हिस्सा बने और हमारा ज्ञान बढ़ाया। तो हम जब सत्र के अंत की तरफ चल रहे हैं तो मैं आपको एक और इम्पॉर्टेंट बात बताना चाहूँगी दर्शकों। हमारा एक कॉम्पिटिशन चल रहा है जो कि मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ एजुकेशन की तरफ से बालपन की कविता, जिसके बारे में आप जानते ही हैं। और आइए देखें उसके बारे में एक छोटी सी झलक।
क्या आपको भी गीत कविता पढ़ने लिखने और गाने गुनगुनाने में रुचि है? तो आइए शिक्षा मंत्रालय भारत सरकार की एक अनूठी और सराहनीय पहल का हिस्सा बने तथा भारतीय भाषाओं और अंग्रेजी में लोकगीत और कविताएं भेजें। आप दिए गए लिंक पर अपनी रचनाएं अथवा किसी अन्य रचनाकार के गीत और कविताएं भेज सकते हैं। भारतीय भाषा कविता प्रतियोगिता के नियम आदि भी आपको इसी लिंक पर उपलब्ध होंगे।
जी एक बेहतरीन मौका अपनी सृजनात्मकता और इमेजिनेशन को हम तक पहुंचाने का, उसको वैलिडेट कराने का, एक्नॉलेज कराने का। बच्चों मैं ये भी बताना चाहूँगी आपको कि बालपन की कविता कंपटीशन की तारीखें यानी डेट्स, लास्ट डेट बढ़ा दी गई है और अब आप अपनी एंट्रीज 23 मई 2025 तक हम तक भेज सकते हैं, दिए गए लिंक पर अपलोड कर सकते हैं। तो ये था हमारा आज का कार्यक्रम। आइए सत्र खत्म करने से पहले देख लें कि कौन कौन से कार्यक्रम अभी और आपके लिए शेष हैं। 4 से 5 बजे हम आपके लिए लेकर आए हैं क्यूरी पॉड नाम का सत्र और 5 से 5:30 आप जुड़ेंगे हमारे साथ सहयोग के सेशन के लिए, जिसका नाम रहेगा एक्टिविटीज टू बूस्ट मेंटल हेल्थ एंड फिजिकल हेल्थ। तो आई एम श्योर दर्शकों आपने बहुत ही इंटरेस्ट लिया होगा हमारे इस परिचर्चा के सत्र में। बहुत सारी क्वेरीज आपकी रिजॉल्व हुई होगी, कुछ साइंटिफिक टेम्परामेंट भी आपने डेवलप किया होगा हमारे साथ। एनसीईआरटी की हमेशा से ये आशा रहती है कुछ अलग कार्यक्रम आपके लिए लेकर आने की। कीप लर्निंग, कीप ग्रोइंग दर्शकों। और मैं अनु गुप्ता आपसे विदा लेती हूँ। नमस्कार।